All right, should I start? Oh, okay. So, hello, good evening, everyone. Hope you all are safe and taking care of yourself. Welcome to Explore ML by DSC. My name is Mitali, and I'll be hosting this session today along with my fellow co-host Yashashree and, of course, Aditi. So, this session will cover basic exploration of what machine learning is and a few of its applications. We're not going to go into the depth of its mathematical models, so don't worry. If you are a fresher to this technology, this session is perfect for you. Now, here is how it's going to work. We're going to be very interactive with you all. Don't be afraid. We're not going to force you to answer questions or anything. We just want you to engage, interact, and discuss the concepts as we go along. All right. So while we've waited so far, I hope that you've gathered some notepads, pens, and highlighters so you can jot down some keywords and concepts to Google them later. So let's get started. Yashashree will be playing a small video about machine learning, and then we'll continue from there.
Our ability to learn and get better at tasks through experience is part of being human. When we're born, we know almost nothing and can do almost nothing for ourselves. But soon, we're learning and becoming more capable every day. But did you know that computers can do the same? Machine learning brings together statistics and computer science to enable computers to learn how to do a given task without being programmed to do so. Just as your brain uses experience to improve at a task, so can computers. Say you need a computer that can tell the difference between a picture of a dog and a picture of a cat. You could begin by feeding it images and telling it, this one's a dog, that one's a cat. A computer programmed to learn will seek statistical patterns within the data that will enable it to recognise a cat or a dog in the future. It might figure out on its own that cats have shorter noses and that dogs come in a larger variety of sizes, and then represent that information numerically, organising it in space. But, crucially, it's the computer, not the programmer, that identifies those patterns and establishes the algorithm by which future data will be sorted. One example of a simple yet highly effective algorithm is to find the optimal line separating cats from dogs. When the computer sees a new picture, it checks which side of the line it falls on and then says either cat or dog. But of course there can be mistakes. The more data the computer receives, the more finely tuned its algorithm becomes, and the more accurate it can be in its predictions. Machine learning is already widely applied. It's the technology behind facial recognition, text and speech recognition, spam filters on your inbox, online shopping or viewing recommendations, credit card fraud detection, and so much more. At the University of Oxford, machine learning researchers are combining statistics and computer science to build algorithms that can solve more complex problems more efficiently, using less computing power. From medical diagnoses to social media, the potential of machine learning to transform our world is truly mind-blowing. To find out more about machine learning, visit oxfordsparks.ox.ac.
So, all right, after seeing this video, I want you to answer, or just in short, give me a sentence or two about how would you personally define machine learning? You can write the text in the chat box. Come on, guys. I told you it's going to be interactive and a discussion.
If you feel like unmuting your mic and talking, go ahead. Like, no
That's
issues
fine
at
too.
all.
Come on, how much ever information you have, or no information at all, how would you describe machine learning? So Mansi is saying analyzing large data sets to make decisions in the future. Yes.
It is how a computer gathers or collects data and then uses it in some way or the other.
Okay. And how would you describe the some way? What are we using this data for?
Could be used to make decisions.
Yeah, correct.
That's one
Decisions based on business objectives, right? Yeah, there are a lot of applications.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So, anyone else? Come on, guys. We are 52 people here. I want at least 10 responses.
Don't be afraid if it's wrong. It's just you're trying to learn something. So just
Exactly.
probably try to think something
Can I
different.
try?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
sure.
So machine learning, basically what I infer is that machines already know quite a lot of stuff about doing things, but then by machine learning, we train them in a particular way or provide them a path by which they can do things which we want them to do in a specific order of things and use those functions in it.
Yes, quite right. Sakshi is saying basically the machine learns from resources like human do. Yes, it gives computers the capability to learn without being programmed, explicitly programmed. Yes, that's correct, Isha. Come on, now we're getting ahead. Very good. More responses. Come on, come on. Come on, you can draw your answers from these answers. It's an application of AI. Machines can recognize patterns and images. Yes. Come on, guys. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. You're not going to get the wrong answer.
Making
Building,
predictions on the
making,
basis of data that it has already studied.
yes, correct. Absolutely. Building models from collection of data to predict the results out of those data. Yes. So it's interesting, right? And even surprising what we can do and achieve from machine learning. I think moving on. So machine learning is used in a growing number of applications, right? As we all know, we hear every day for text recognition, image recognition, autonomous driving. Though it's not a replacement for every task, we need to realize that. And now we're going to perform a small activity. And in this activity, you'll explore an example of machine learning. Enjoy the activity and see if you can form a hypothesis or evidence based theory on how it works. We'll use this to develop an understanding on how machine learning works. All right, open your internet browsers. I'm going to share a link in the chat box. Go to this link and try out the activity. Give me a thumbs up if you can see your doodling website called Quick Draw.
We would like it if you could take a screenshot. You can do that by clicking on the Windows button and print screen button. And you'll be uploading that later in the quiz. Thank you.
So much fun. I'm playing along with them.
Is there anyone who is not able to see it?
Rutuja is saying, wow. I think she's stunned by how accurate that application is.
It works so well, right?
I think everyone is fascinated by how amazing that application
Yeah,
is.
like everyone's also enjoying.
So, can you believe there are 50 million doodles that have been drawn by people and are in the data set of that website, from which it recognizes what your drawing is? 50 million doodles drawn by people like us. So that's what machine learning is. It recognizes from what we give it, the data that we give it.
And also look at the fact that how large the data needs to be so that the predictions are accurate.
This accurate. I think let's move on. A lot of people have had their share of fun. So let's spend a couple of minutes discussing these questions, right? So, what do you think? How does this game work? Do you have any idea? It can be anything. Come on, answer. How do you think the game works? You can unmute, you can type in the chat box. How is it recognizing your drawings?
Image processing.
Yeah. Anyone else who would like to draw along those lines?
I think it's recognizing a pattern. Like
Yeah.
when a lot of people have, like for example, it was telling us to draw an envelope. So when a lot of people drew the rectangle, it figured that it was a rectangle. So these patterns, when they occur repeatedly, that helps the machine to kind of adapt to that and see the pattern and then give its output.
Yeah. Mansi is saying it has a data set of basic shapes, maybe on the basis of that. Savi is saying it tries to match the doodle will draw with the data it already has. Sakshi is saying the drawing is divided in parts and then compared with the given material to learn. Yes. Aishwarya is saying there could be preloaded images which it compares a drawing with them and then guesses. Absolutely correct, Aishwarya. Pranjal is saying it goes pixel by pixel to find common or similar patterns in those doodles. Quite right. I mean, it's an image. So how do you think if we have to program this, okay, if we have to write a program to make an image be classified into a doodle category, how do you think we will go about it? You can draw your program from your answers. I mean, how do you think you'll go about based on your answers? How will you program it to recognize what you have drawn? It's recognizing on the basis of already stored data. Yes. So how will you make it recognize? How do you think it works? Or have we asked a tough question? Okay, all right, moving on. Aishwarya is saying for the first time we have to actually say what it is so that it can recognize later. Yeah, kind of, correct. So here's a clue how the game works, okay? So there is a large amount of data used to teach this game how to recognize the images. So if you go to the website, you can see a lot of examples of an object. So in this slide, there are some examples of a carrot. And these are examples of carrot drawn by different people. Meaning, these are interpretations of a carrot by different people. So if you're going to describe what a carrot was to someone who had never seen one before, and using only these images, how would you describe it? How would you describe a carrot? Come on, guys, answer. Mansi is saying supervised learning. Mansi, can we hold on to that for a while? Let's just talk about how will you describe a carrot based on these images. Come on, guys, answer in the chat box. How will you describe a carrot? It's simple. Using shapes like triangles, right? Anything else though? Yes, triangular shape. Yes. It has leaves. Yes. Anything else? Anything else? Any other characteristics? Color. Yeah, to some extent. It is tapering at the end and has leaves on the head, elongated eclipse having leaves. Yeah, so using shapes like triangle or key characteristics such as the leafy root on the top or the lines, right? This is how you would describe a carrot to a person who's never seen a carrot before. Yes, Shri, can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So you may be familiar with traditional programming, right? Where you start with a goal, write logical rules to reach that goal, and refine through testing until it works the way you want it to. So imagine if you tried to describe a carrot the way you just described using traditional programming methods, as those on the right side of this slide. This approach would get very complicated, especially if you wanted to account for all the possible ways one could draw an object. Let's take, for example, carrot only. So let's say if the object dot height is greater than 5 centimeter, and if the object dot color is orange, and if the object dot number of legs, instead of number of legs, let's say leafy vegetables, true or false, then that would define our goal, that is objectifying or categorizing the image as carrot, right? But since every person has a different interpretation or a drawing of a carrot, how much programming do you think you'll have to do? A lot, right? Moving on. Yes, Shri, can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so machine learning is an alternative to all that programming that you think you might have to do to get to recognize a carrot from a random person. So machine learning is an alternative approach to build a software. Instead of programmers creating the rules, a model is trained with examples, and these examples are the data that we're talking about. So rather than trying to define for the computer what a carrot is and account for all the possibilities, the computer is given lots of varying examples like you saw in the quick draw data and told that this is a carrot, this is a carrot, this is a carrot, this is a carrot, this is a carrot. The next time you come across a figure shaped something like this, you need to categorize it as a carrot. So this approach results in a more flexible understanding. So what might be a limitation of a machine learning approach? What do you think is the limitation of this approach? What do you think is a problem to creating or training such models, to getting the machine to recognize that this is a carrot?
We have to feed too much of data to the machine, and sometimes our views won't match what others are thinking.
Yes, correct.
So,
anything else?
Sometimes we don't really have data to train the model. It won't work properly with absolutely new data at times. So
yeah, okay, correct. Anything else? Anything else? Let's suppose we have all the data. We have all the data to train this model. Do you see any other problem there?
One problem might be that if we were to draw something else which is triangular in shape and all, the computer doesn't really know if it's a carrot or not. So it might recognize something as a carrot which is not.
Yes, absolutely correct. So, in short, the machine learning model is only as good as the examples. It's only as good as the data that you feed it. So, if you're feeding it good data, it will give you good results. If you're feeding it bad quality data, it's going to give you bad quality results. Clean data sets are not available every time, and cleaning the data set is very, yeah, I mean, Ritika, that's correct. It was just a question about what the problem will be as to developing this machine learning approach. And what type of tasks do you think would be a good fit for machine learning? Now that we're talking about the applications, so what tasks do you think machine learning can take are a good fit for a machine learning problem or an approach? Let me reframe the question. So, where do you think, what tasks, or where do you think we should use machine learning as an approach to solving a problem or a goal or an objective that we've set? It doesn't have to be this carrot application. It can be anything. Like recognize fingerprints, maybe. Somebody said something right now.
Identifying different objects.
Yes, correct. Decision making, yes. Yeah, these are all applications. Come on, guys. Automating processes when we have to cross-check, deal with large amount of data. I did not understand this, Sakshi. Can you be more clear about what cross-check and dealing with a large amount of data means? Accurate analysis. Yeah, but
For numeric data and classification of objects and things in particular.
yes, I want you guys to answer along the application lines. Fraud detection, yes, correct, Anuja, absolutely. Categorizing data accordingly. Yeah, that all is fine, but for what applications? What tasks? Traffic prediction, security purposes, outlier analysis. Correct. Also, one more question. Do you guys think that we can use machine learning everywhere? I mean, we pick one task, software task. Do you think we can use machine learning in that task? Voice recognition, yes. Social media. Okay, Gayatri, what is where can we use machine learning in social media? Segregation of forms for an organization. Sentiment analysis. Sakshi, segregation of forms for an organization, don't you think that would be much more of a programming task rather than a machine learning task? I mean, what would if you have anything specific in mind, go ahead, tell me. What is segregation? How would we use machine learning there? Market basket analysis. Okay. Sentiment analysis. No, we can't use ML anywhere as it can predict wrong sometimes. Yes, correct. Chatbots. Yes. All right. So discussion on the basis of good forms, say right for the post. Okay. Oh,
By social media, I meant that, say for example, we are talking about Instagram. Whatever things we are watching in the feed of Instagram, that data has been collected by the Instagram, and the same advertisement are being displayed on our web.
so you mean
So
advertisement? Yeah.
yes.
So specific I want you guys to be. Like, social media is a very generic term, right? And machine learning is used in a lot of aspects of social media. So advertising, correct, absolutely correct. Online, yes. Routers. Aishwarya, can you elaborate on routers?
Like those switches or routers, like for the
How?
first time, we don't know where to send the packet, but as and when it stores the addresses of the nearby hosts, it already knows where to send them. So maybe That's
But the addresses are already there, right? I mean,
but for the first time, it doesn't know where the address is, so it has to learn, right?
no, there is this mechanism called a broadcasting mechanism where the address is actually where you want to send the packet. That node echoes back its own address, MAC address. But okay, I mean, if I'm not aware about this application, uh,
Okay, I mean, even I was asking. I don't really.
yeah, okay, let's
have a
let's find
problem.
out actually. Let's get in touch and find out if we can use machine learning in router.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let's let's classify something, all right? I want you to answer a few questions on the slides. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think? Which approach is appropriate here? Alphabetizing a list of song titles. You can answer in the chat box. Which approach do you think is appropriate here? Should we go with machine learning or should we go with traditional programming? Rule-based, rule-based, rule-based. Everyone is saying rule-based. Anyone saying machine learning? Okay, I guess the general consensus is rule-based. Now, obviously, the following question will be why? Can you explain why we need to go with the rule-based models rather than the machine learning model? Right, guys, come on, explain. Why did you pick rule-based? What made you think that rule-based approach is a better approach here? If A, then A, B, then B, and so on, because we can code the constraint. Yes, absolutely right. There's a specific way in which the goal can be achieved. Yes. Yes. Anyone else? Yeah, these are correct answers. You can roll on these answers. Come on, guys. Anyone else has any other opinion as to why rule-based approach is well suited? Okay, so there are sorting rules and algorithms which are very well suited for this task rather than machine learning. We have to put them in order, hence they have to be compared. Yeah, we can give it instructions in that specific way so as to arrange it in that way. Yeah, absolutely. There are fixed numbers of letters in the alphabets, right? 26. So there are only so many rules that you need to program. So that's why rule-based approach is the best approach here. Moving on. Right. Which approach? Ranking web search results. Come on, this is tricky, but I feel like you will get the correct answer for sure. Machine learning, machine learning. Okay. ML, 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 ML. Anyone saying rule based? Come on. Anyone for rule based? No one? Okay. I am for rule based, by the way. If you're wondering, rule based. Yay, I have one supporter, some extra. Doesn't ranking mean sorting? Not really, but we'll get into that later. Yeah. Okay, rule based. Come on, rule based. Who else is for rule based? Okay. So the ones who picked machine learning, I want you to explain why did you pick machine learning? Because the answer is both rule based and machine learning. Rule based on views, rule based because we can compare through the number of users. Yes, yes. Now machine learning people, come on, explain why did you pick machine learning for this approach? Because it is based on the searches done by others and the most viewed sites appear on the top. Absolutely correct. So the approach you would take would depend on your goal here. So are you ranking web results based on the relevance to my query? Then that would mean rule based. If the query was news, say suppose, so you might also want to take into account how recently the article was posted, right? And what are your frequent searches on the internet? That would account for a machine learning approach. If I am looking for more finance news, I'm looking for more climate change news, then I would get news more relevant to those topics. It can become easy through ML, say using keywords which are most common will be ranked in a better category. Yes, it depends on your goal, how you want to rank your web search results. Before machine learning, there was a very heavy page ranking algorithm that Google used, which was a rule-based approach to rank your web results. So let's not forget that Google still uses it. Moving on, this approach. Come on. How would you predict housing prices based on location? ML, 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 ML. Anyone for rule based? No? Chalo, फिर explain why ML. See, your answer has to come with an explanation. Okay? If you're picking ML, I need you to answer why did you think that it was a machine learning approach? Or was it purely gut instinct? As we're predicting a value based on the data we have. Yes. We can predict the price on the basis of past data. Correct. Just a second, guys. I'll be back. Rule-based may be considering the facilities of the location, maybe regression to be precise. We can select the price basis on the past data. Yes, that's correct. Rules won't work since the nearby facilities matter too. Correct. So the correct answer is obviously machine learning. So there's no perfect formula, right, in determining how much a home would cost based on its location. So that's why we have to use machine learning. If there would have been a formula, then we would have been able to write some rules for programming the output, our goal, right? So there are a lot of factors that come into play in how much a home price costs, location, um, how how near are the other facilities like malls and gyms and schools, and how prominent is the location, how big is the apartment, is it a bungalow, apartment, villa, all these things. There are too many constraints. So machine learning is the best approach here, and we have a lot of historical data for predicting the prices, housing prices in a particular locality. So yeah, it's a correct answer. Based on locations, we might use maps and help us figure out good locations based on facilities nearby location. Yes, anything predicting has to be ML because you cannot predict with rule based. Can we not though? Can we not predict with rule based, Fatima? Yeah, you're correct actually. I was just messing with you. So on next slide. No, you freshers are too smart. Processing online payments. Come on. What is the answer to this? What approach? Hello? You can hear me, right? Yeah. Rule based, rule based, rule based. Impressive. Rule-based, yes, Sanskriti, rule-based approach, it's correct. Now, why do you think rule-based approach for processing online payments? Explanations should follow. No prediction is required. Yes. I want to clear one thing, guys. Do not associate machine learning with only prediction. It can mean a whole lot of other things too. So don't keep this in your mind that machine learning means only prediction. Okay, it's right to some extent, but not it does not encompass the entire definition of machine learning. All right. Sounds very straightforward. That's your explanation, Mansi. Wow, quite bold. Because there is always a defined way of doing it. Because it's simple, just take the money and transfer it from one account to another. Correct. Rule-based, we do not need a big set of data. Correct. The set of rules would particularly follow a specific path to execute. Yes, absolutely. Seamless explanation by Malika. So online payments are straightforward logical process, right? It is possible for a programmer to confidently program the exact steps necessary to transfer amount from one account to another account. Subtract, deduct, and deposit, right? Add. Fraud detection, however, knowing whether a credit card number was stolen and used inappropriately is a much more complex and hard problem to define where machine learning is used. And it is used for this specific part of online processing system, right? Outlier detection also. It's not used in the entire processing domain, but for fraud detection, it is used. Proper steps to follow. It follows only two ways it should be done, or the transaction is failed. It is more defined. Yes, correct. Okay, next approach. Classifying an object in a photo. ML. Correct. Explanations. Why do you think machine learning is used to classify an object in a photo? The same carrot example. Yes. Smart. But I need a proper explanation. Image processing is needed, and ML helps in predicting what the object might be. Yes, correct. Simply put, there are too many variables to try and create rules for every situation, right? No two photos are going to be alike. So even a photo of a famous landmark could be captured at different angles, right? Times of day, different lighting. This would make it much harder to define what an object is to be written in code. So machine learning builds a representation from many examples like this, so it can be more flexible and will be able to handle such object recognition situations. Dimensions, pixels, matrices, matrices. Yes, correct, Anushka. That's the mathematical part of it. Ample combinations can be fed to make the prediction true. Yes, to judge that which object is it, the computer should have knowledge of how the object looks in different scenarios. Yes. So now I think we are clear on when to use rule-based approach and when to use machine learning, right? So we'll just recap. So we use rule-based approach where we know that we can define a set of variables and write a certain steps and constraints to reach our goal. So rules are defined. And improvements in rule-based approach come from algorithms by optimizing the algorithms and the network. Whereas in the machine learning, the machine learns from patterns and data, and improvements can come from additional data and more accurate and well-trained models. So machine learning will not become the default option for software. It is best suited for certain situations, but not for all. Again, I am emphasizing that it is not a solution for every problem. And more importantly, knowing when to not use machine learning is more important than knowing when to use machine learning. All right. So, question time again. Surprise. What are the other examples of machine learning you could imagine? Give me any examples, whatever you can think of. Where do you think we've discussed so many applications? Do you have any other applications that even we might not have heard of? We discussed object classification, photo recognition. Where else can we use machine learning? Somebody said market basket. Sports analysis. Correct. Mansi, yes. Classifying astronomical bodies. Yes. Yes. Wide area of machine learning. Predicting whether a person might develop a certain disease based on age and other parameters. Yes. Cancer prediction, a very wide used application. Generating captions, yes. Self-driving cars, yes. Intent detection, online shopping apps, yes. Personalized advertisement, correct. So many applications, right? Yeah. So while machine learning offers powerful new opportunities, implementing a machine learning system can be more complex than traditional software. This is primarily because a machine learning system is only as good as the data it is trained on, like I said before. So in this section, I'll try to provide an overview of the process as well as the important considerations that you should take while developing or going from idea to implementation of a machine learning model or a task. Can we play the video, Yashri? Yeah.
Suppose you have a great business idea and you've already gone through the effort to frame it as a machine learning problem. What next? How does your idea become a working machine learning solution? The process has 3 phases: data, modeling, and production. In the data phase, you identify the input data that your machine learning system needs to make successful predictions. Data may come from databases, log files, web pages, and even other machine learning systems. Once you identify data inputs and sources, you use statistical tools to draw insights about the data. The better you know your data, the more useful hypotheses you can make. Data rarely comes in an ideal state. Data needs to be collated, possibly by joining different data sources, and cleaned for the machine learning model to work optimally. Cleaner data results in better predictions. For a machine learning problem, you start with the input data and convert it into features. Features are key properties of the data. For a supervised machine learning problem, you transform the outcome into labels. Labels represent the intended output of the machine learning system. Joining data sources, cleaning the data, and engineering the features and labels takes time. Plan on spending a large portion of your time in the data phase. Modeling phase. Along with the features and labels, you set up the kind of machine learning system needed, called the model. Researchers have created all sorts of machine learning models, from simple to complex. Some models classify data. Other models predict numeric values. Tools like Google's TensorFlow support many types of machine learning models for various uses. Before a model can make predictions, it needs training, which is like sending the model to school. First, there are lessons to learn from the data. Along the way, there are quizzes to check knowledge and correct any misunderstandings. In the end, there's a final exam. When training the model, you split the data into 3 sets: training, validation, and test. The training set corresponds to lessons. Here, the model processes data for the first time. It starts to infer patterns in the data to help make predictions. After you've trained the model once, you quiz it using the validation set. Based on how well the model does on the quiz, you may decide to adjust the model settings, or hyperparameters, which are like dials and switches for changing the model's behavior, and retrain the model again to give it the quiz again. The goal is to iteratively find settings that provide the best model quality on the validation set. When the model meets your success criteria, it's time for the final exam. Feed your model the test set. If the model predicts well, it passes the course and is ready for real use. Once your ML system is ready for the world, it's time to move the system into production. For starters, your system may need integration into a product. You need to figure out what this integration looks like and whether your model interacts with users. Models may need retraining on a regular basis with new data to pick up on new patterns or trends. This training could come from new data sets or from interactions with users. The system needs monitoring. This means tracking system outages, errors, data processing volume and speed, and how successfully it predicts results. Machine learning systems also require maintenance. As with any production system, this means fixing bugs, adding features that didn't make it into version 1, and the like. Machine learning specific maintenance could include testing other models and settings to see if performance improves.
So, as you might have seen in how the process of machine learning works, machine learning begins with the needs of the user and the business, right? Setting a goal or an objective. Now, with this in mind, you define your objective and proceed. Like examples would include predicting which friends a user is likely to share a photo with. So let's say I am sharing frequently photos with Aditri. So when I am sharing a photo, I might get her contact number on WhatsApp as a suggestion. Now suggesting the user where he or she should eat in a new city based on the previous restaurants he's visited is also a task a machine learning model can perform. Now, these goals should be articulated to success metrics as well, because you need to define what does the success for this task mean, right? Machine learning models learn from examples, so it is essential to find large existing sources of data that are relevant to your problem, because you need to train your model on that data, right? So experts obviously say, you might have seen and heard in the video, that collecting, cleaning, exploring, and other data processing tends to take the longest and is the most critical part of the process, because you need, among all the data that you've collected, you need to select the most appropriate features to train your model on. And selecting those appropriate features takes time, right? That's the most crucial part. And the arrow pointing back from predicting to data shows the iterative nature of machine learning process, right? You will need to refine your model as you go along, perhaps your data collection and processing based on the feedback, until you're achieving the results that you're looking for, until you are improving your accuracy. And that accuracy improves by training your model on good quality of data. Moving on. So just a second, can you stop the video?
Close your eyes and picture.
Yeah. So before the video, I just want to say that humans are prone to trust results from computers. Now we assume that technology will work as designed until it breaks. However, even well-designed machine learning pipeline can experience issues when it picks up on the biases found in the data. Yeah, you can play the video now, Yashashree.
Picture a shoe. Okay, did anyone picture this? This? How about this? We may not even know why, but each of us is biased toward one shoe over the others. Now imagine that you're trying to teach a computer to recognize a shoe. You may end up exposing it to your own bias. That's how bias happens in machine learning. But first, what is machine learning? Well, it's used in a lot of technology we use today. Machine learning helps us get from place to place, gives us suggestions, translates stuff, even understands what you say to it. How does it work? With traditional programming, people hand code the solution to a problem, step by step. With machine learning, computers learn the solution by finding patterns in data. So it's easy to think there's no human bias in that. But just because something is based on data doesn't automatically make it neutral. Even with good intentions, it's impossible to separate ourselves from our own human biases. So our human biases become part of the technology we create in many different ways. There's interaction bias, like this recent game, where people were asked to draw shoes for the computer. Most people drew ones like this. So as more people interacted with the game, the computer didn't even recognize these. Latent bias. For example, if you were training a computer on what a physicist looks like, and you're using pictures of past physicists, your algorithm will end up with a latent bias, skewing towards men. And selection bias. Say you're training a model to recognize faces. Whether you grab images from the internet or your own photo library, are you making sure to select photos that represent everyone? Since some of our most advanced products use machine learning, we've been working to prevent that technology from perpetuating negative human bias. From tackling offensive or clearly misleading information from appearing at the top of your search results page, to adding a feedback tool on the search bar so people can flag hateful or inappropriate autocomplete suggestions. It's a complex issue and there's no magic bullet, but it starts with all of us being aware of it so we can all be part of the conversation. Because technology should work for everyone.
So after seeing this video, when someone will describe you a new application of machine learning, what questions will you ask them based on this video? What would be your very first question to a machine learning task? Come on, guys. Can be anything. It's your personal task. Doesn't it? There is no proper answer for this. We can learn from each other's views and answers. Okay. Complex question, is it? Okay, next question. What approaches could a software development team or a group of people working like us to develop a machine learning model take to mitigate the bias that are introduced in the machine learning system? How can we mitigate the biases that we humans ourselves introduce?
User feedback.
Yes, correct. And what would we do with that user feedback? Bring more people to work on it? Yes. Diversity, different views, very important. User feedback would allow us to introduce or train our model with the right data, right? To mitigate the biases that we've previously introduced in our system, right? Take a bigger and varied data set. Yes, absolutely correct. I think we could go to the next slide.
Machine learning systems require lots of data to make successful predictions. What happens when that data is sensitive, such as people's names, credit card numbers, or medical histories? Sometimes, sensitive data is needed to train a model so it can make accurate predictions. But at the same time, this data must be carefully protected. This is the challenge of machine learning privacy. Let's look at an example. Suppose you create a machine learning model to diagnose illnesses based on a person's symptoms. Someone who reports a stuffy nose and a cough might receive the diagnosis, the common cold, whereas someone else with the same symptoms plus a high fever might be diagnosed with the flu. Plenty of other factors might influence the diagnosis too. Does the patient have a medical history of similar symptoms? Did she recently travel to another country or spend time on a farm with livestock? Are other family members or roommates sick at the same time? To train this model, you could feed it information about thousands of people and their symptoms, medical records, and demographic information. This data includes plenty of personal information that needs to be kept private. In addition, the data sets involved might contain other private information not directly relevant to medical diagnosis, such as patient contact information or the credit card numbers used to pay healthcare providers. What steps should you take to protect user privacy? Step 1 is to gather and select only the data that your ML system needs to achieve its goal. The less private data you have in the first place, the less you need to protect. This might seem like common sense, but it takes effort. It's easier to copy a whole database than to spend hours removing the parts that you don't need. Step 2 is to identify any data in your datasets that may be sensitive. For example, people's names, addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, government ID numbers, and other personally identifiable information, or PII, should be kept private. Another type of private information is user-generated content, such as email messages, YouTube videos, blog posts, and any other content created by known individuals. Be sure to work with your product counsel to determine which types of information are considered private and how to handle them. You also need to make sure you have permission to use the data and whether the data has other privacy restrictions. Be sure to work with your product counsel here as well. Step 3 is to protect the private data. You can do this by controlling access to the data and your ML model, or by altering the data so it's not recognizable anymore, or both. Privacy is a critical concern in machine learning. When you maintain privacy, you build trust with users and protect your company's interests.
So these days, there's a lot of issue and hot debate about privacy, right? All these big giant MNCs taking all our personal data and using it. So it seemed important to introduce this topic because the less data that you take in the first place to train your model, the less you need to protect, right? Privacy is really the key to understanding the users and protecting, because see, in the end, it's your data also. Your data is also used by all these companies to suggest you your personal ads. So you need to remember that when you are introducing your own machine learning models, less data you use, the less laws and policies you need to regulate, right? So I think I'm going to hand it over to Yashashree now. She'll be continuing from here.
Yes. Okay. So till now we have seen where can it be used, when can machine learning be used, etc. So now let's try to understand what can it exactly do. So it's easy to look at examples of ML and see that it is magical, but it also opens a lot of new opportunities and possibilities in this technology. So we already considered certain situations where ML was necessary or not. But in this section, we will try to discuss what type of problems that machine learning is better suited for. So you might have heard about artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and these are the sort of buzzwords that every newcomer in this technology hears these kind of words and then is very flustered about what is their meaning, or are they really interchangeable, etc. So let's just try to throw a bit of light on these three concepts. So AI, or artificial intelligence, it is actually properly defined as any technology which appears to do something smart. So this can be anything from program software to deep learning models, which can mimic human intelligence. So we can see that artificial intelligence is sort of like the superset, and it includes everything that machine learning and deep learning do. Then let's talk about machine learning. Machine learning is like a specific kind of artificial intelligence, as it is a subset of artificial intelligence. But rather than a rule-based approach, as we saw earlier, the system learns how to do something from examples rather than when explicitly told what to do so. So it includes, like, if this image is a cat or a dog, so this type of differentiating between, because it has learned a lot of data. So it's just like a small child. You try to teach that child, so these 100 images are images of dog, and this 100 images are images of a cat. And then after studying both of these, then the child can identify a newer image which is either a cat or a dog. So that sort of thing is a machine learning. So we can say that it is inherently also artificial intelligence, because a machine is trying to do something, it tries to mimic human intelligence again. So we can now understand that how really it is a subset of AI. And again, then third comes deep learning. So you have heard everywhere, so deep learning is being used to do this, or deep learning is one of the most used technologies for so and so reason, or in this particular task. So what exactly is deep learning? So deep learning is a specific type of machine learning. It uses a technique known as neural network, which connects multiple models together to solve complex types of problems. So it's also a subset of machine learning. So it tries to understand, or it tries various machine learning technologies, but this is a very specific method that is called as the neural networks. So we'll be talking more about neural networks in the class, in the second class on Friday. So you can understand more about it then. And deep learning is similar to other machine learning models. That is, it learns via examples, but it's unique because it connects models to other models in layers. So every time a new input is given, it passes through a chain or layers of models, and that is what differentiates it specifically from machine learning, as in creates a new subset. So it can handle complex types of data like images as well. So typically, while we were talking about the classification of dog and cat, it's much more easier and efficient to do so using deep learning, because we are training on data that is images of cats and dogs. Okay, so yeah, so let's move ahead. And so again, you have heard about big data, algorithms, technologies. So we saw what is the difference between AI, ML, DL. But now, since we are typically focusing on ML, let's understand what ML is. So here, with this diagram, we can see that it's a beautiful combination of big data, that is unstructured, high amount of unstructured data, then algorithms. You guys must have learned about algorithms. Algorithm is just like a basic instruction sheet that is given, and technology. So it's the right mixture of all the three of this. So this is the simplified overview of the history of machine learning. So if you want to search more about how this evolved, you can always use Google. The key algorithms which power the machine learning technology were formulated even as more as centuries ago. So they came from statistics, linear algebra, biology, physics, etc. So these algorithms are sort of roughly based on these technologies or aspects like algebra or biology. Then for the next few decades, sufficiently large amount of data were collected to train the models. So here comes the big data. But they were of low quality, and frankly, it was quite expensive to train. So a lack of progress and prospects led to an AI winter where machine learning was considered a waste of time as well. So you can see how researchers went from algorithm designing to then a few years later, they thought that ML is not quite useful. And then right now, you can see that there's such a boom in AI, ML, these technologies. So you can see how this all has progressed over the past few decades. And then finally, in the last few decades, the availability of relatively cheap and fast computing power. So we can see that with the rise of cloud computing and better storage devices, the costs of storing anything, or the costs of, let's say, hardware as well, has reduced. Therefore, it's much cheaper now to have high computational hardware. So that was about a little bit about the history of ML, how it was developed, and how people were thought of moving in this direction. So if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat box. I'll stop, or if you didn't understand the part, please let me know. So now let's actually look at a few approaches, or where can machine learning be used, or what can it be used to do. So now the first technique is classification. So you guys must have heard that this particular project used classification for giving the output, etc. So what exactly is classification? So classification is a very common application of machine learning. The system determines which class or category an example belongs to. So here in the first image, you can see that image or video, you can see that there is a line which tries to differentiate between the red dots and the blue dots. So it's as simple as that. So when you were kids, we used to sort red shaped blocks from blue shaped blocks or squares from rectangles. So that sort of a situation at the very crude level is a classification. So the output can be a label. So here the label will be red ball, blue ball, or it can be a percentage of confidence. That is, with 80% confidence, the model thinks that the image is of a lion. Then, for example, if the classifier was trained to identify whether or not image was of a lion, then it might output yes or no. However, if it was more generically an animal classifier, then the output would be lion, tiger, bird, whatever. So here we can see that in front of lion, we have written that it might be a lion, it might be wildlife, it might be mammal. Now, why do you think this difference is there? Why are there three options given over here? Does anybody have any idea why there are three options written, or how can three options be used over here? Does anyone have idea why we have written three options in front of lion?
Because that lion belongs to all three classes, maybe.
Yeah, sort of on the correct line, but by this I meant to say that if your data say has lions, tigers, and maybe monkeys, so in that case the classification output will be it's a lion or it's a monkey, it's a tiger. If your input data was of wildlife and greenery probably, then the output would be this particular images of wildlife. And then if it were about birds and mammals, then the output would be a mammal. So you see that the label for this particular image changes depending on what it was given to. So what was the basic purpose defines what the label is going to be. That is what I meant to say. So classification systems depend on a particular threshold that is set by human developers. So the one who is programming decides after this particular limit, this can be classified as say a lion. Maybe its color is golden brown, it has a mane, it has a nose. So that sort of a threshold needs to be set by a developer. Then if you build an email spam classifier, let's say, it would be necessary to fine tune the threshold so that your system doesn't incorrectly label normal email as spam when it was actually genuine. So these sorts of parameters needs to be set by the developer who's writing the program. So that was all about classification. Let's now understand the regression part in machine learning. So regression basically outputs a number. So for example, how long will it take for me to drive from say Pune to Mumbai, or the likelihood that this particular person will click on the ad. So the main difference with classification and regression is that with classification you get an output as yes or no, or a particular label as an output, lion, tiger, etc. But in regression, you generally have a number as an output. So the examples or the questions that we were taking some time ago, so there was a question on prediction of price of a house, and we were discussing that. So that sort of a problem, as someone had rightly pointed out, is regression, because it tries to predict the price of the house depending on n number of parameters, its locality, maybe the square feet area rate at that in that particular area, and number of rooms or the total area, and so many things like that. So depending on that, it gives a numerical output. Say 40 lakhs will be the price of this place. So that sort of an output is because it's a regression system. So regression systems can be simplified as drawing a line, and you see above, or multiple complex models depending on multiple variables. So it's like extending that line and then identifying what all can be the further possibility is what regression includes. In the second image, we can see that there is a Google Map screenshot given over here. It's like it's trying to calculate how fast you can go between city A and city B, and then it might depend on the traffic conditions, what vehicle you are using, if you're using a two-wheeler, four-wheeler, bus. So on these type of parameters, then it shows you ETA, expected time of arrival, on the Google Map. So that is sort of I'm trying to show that part in this image. So that was about regression. So right now we have understood what was classification and what was regression. If you have any doubts in these, please put them up in the chat box.
Guys, please ask questions. We're here to answer it, or at least point you out in the right direction.
Yeah, no question is silly. It's just silly if you don't ask it.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Like you said, computing the house prices of a particular locality, it comes
Yeah.
under a regression problem.
Yeah.
Why can't it be a classification problem? Because what are we doing in regression? We're just looking at different aspects which can affect the prices of that particular property. Like it comes
Yeah.
under different classes as well, right?
See, when we are trying to look at classification, there needs to be some sort of a label for that. So unless you have just like, every situation actually depends on exact problem definition. So if we like say we have just two categories of maybe homes whose price is like greater than 50 lakhs and whose is probably greater than 80 lakhs. So if we have just two categories, then in that case we can consider it as a classification problem. Is it greater than 50 lakhs or is it greater than 80 lakhs or whatever the threshold that you're setting? But in cases other than that, it's trying to predict an exact number. So in some cases, the number can be 40.5 lakhs. But if we change the location from Pune to Mumbai and we change the number of blocks or number of rooms in that particular house, then that price is going to change. It might become 50 lakhs, it might become 30 lakhs, it might be some odd figure, so it might be 35.67 lakhs. So because of that, it's sort of like you're plotting a graph, but it just doesn't have x and y dependencies, it has multiple number of dependencies. So that is what regression tries to convey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So
Yeah.
Arushi is asking to
Yeah.
summarize what are the points of differences between classification. See, classification, we're trying to classify an object, say suppose, into predefined labels. Okay, we are the ones, we developers are the ones who define those labels or categorize those labels. Let's say yes, no, spam, no spam, lion, tiger, apple, orange. These are the labels that we put to the object and we want the model to classify that object into. Okay, regression on the other hand, it's trying to predict something, to come to an answer. Like in the case of housing prices, we're trying to come around a price for that house based on the features that we've inputted in the data. Okay, like Yashashree said rightly, location and bedrooms and all of that. So, all of those features taken into account in regression, we're trying to predict something, a price of the house. We're not trying to classify the house, right, into like yes or no or into one or two, nothing like that. In classification, we classify, try to understand whether we're trying. Let's take cancer. We'll classify the cancer disease into or a tumor into malignant or benign. We cannot predict the tumor, right? In regression, we're trying to predict something, like the time taken to go from one location to the other. Can we say
So
that
regression is like you will always have more of like a numerical output. So if it's classification, the output can be only 3 or 4 of the following things. So it may be a rat, cat, or dog and bat, let's say. So it can be anything only among these four, strictly nothing outside of that scope. But if it's regression, then it particularly will have it will have a numerical value. So you can't define that it will only be between only be among 10, 20, 30, or 40. It can be 10.5, it can be 20.5, 21.5. So these values are intermediate values. So you'll have to just say that anything lying in this interval is probably the least that you can say. Anything other than that, you can't specify anything more for regression. So that is the basic difference between classification and regression. I hope this is clear now.
In short, classification is about predicting a label and regression is about predicting a quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, discrete class label output and regression will produce a continuous quantity output.
Yeah, And Malika, no, regression is not a type of classification because there is a lot of difference between them. So we just said that if it's label based or if it's going to predict a number. So these categories have nothing in common. So we cannot say that regression is a type of classification. Okay, so Pranjal is asking, does that mean apps or websites like Cast 24/7 use regression? Yeah, I don't know much about Cast 24. I hope that, I think so that it's for like resale or use of cars, right? So for that, or if it's rental cars, then if it predicts the price of the car, if you're going to borrow the car for like 8 hours, then depending on that, or how much ever petrol you use, or on these factors, if it's going to decide the cost, then yes, that is pretty much regression.
Yeah, see, they build a lot more complex models based on these models, like regression. Obviously, they're doing some prediction, so yeah, their models are going to be based on regression, but there are a lot of other things that they also use. You cannot simply just use regression. It's a founding model, rather, you can say.
Yeah, you can understand the concept based on regression, but actual in real life, companies use much more complex models. Okay. So let's now move on to clustering. So this is another different type of problem where we can apply machine learning. So the first two actually were categories of supervised machine learning. You were saying, we were saying that we needed training data to give, if this is a lion and this is a tiger, then we needed a lot of lion data images and a lot of tiger images to train it. And then in regression, we needed data regarding the general prices of houses in that area, say the rate per square feet of that area, and all that needed to be given. And it needed to be given that if it's 2 BHK, it has 5,000 square feet area, then this is going to be the price. So we needed to give the particular price while we were training it. But now that we are looking at clustering, it's an unsupervised technique. Here, you don't have to tell it explicitly that this particular one means this. So this is more of like trying to identify patterns and then grouping the common patterns together. So here in the very first small video, you can see that all the dots which are related are coming together. So there are like 3 different colored dots that you can see. So they are all similar to each other. Therefore, all the red ones are clubbed together. Same is with the green and the blue ones. In the image below that, you can also see that it's trying to analyze something and it gives output as 7 or 2. So this is actually on the handwritten data set, and we can see that all the 7s are paired together and all the 2s are grouped together. So in this slide, the data of hand-drawn images is moved into clusters of the same numbers. So 1s with 1s, 2s with 2s, 7s with 7s, etc. Even within the cluster of the same number, the images are actually further clustered, by which they are more similar in shape. For example, some 2s and some 7s may look similar, because if we are analyzing handwritten data, someone has a different style of writing 7, or by mistake, if we start writing too fast, then the the writing tends to get distorted. So in those cases, some 2s and some 7s might be incorrectly clubbed together as well. So that was the clustering part of how clustering works. Now let's look at sequence prediction. So we all have always used this Swift key for typing and chatting, etc. So we see that after typing the first word, it starts suggesting us hey, then it suggests probably good morning. So this type of a problem is called a sequence prediction problem. In order to assist users, it can be helpful to predict what they might do next. So we all have experienced the fact that this makes our typing much easier, and we actually spend a lot less time typing. So this could be a prediction of the next keyword that a user will select, as you see in the screenshot. So this could be used to propose a spelling correction or suggest replies to text message. Other examples of sequence prediction could include the next video a user might want to watch. So it's like YouTube recommendation system. Very roughly, can be also based on sequence prediction, or next stop on a vacation, etc. So something that requires you, what will you do next based on all the actions that you have taken or you have done so far, is sequence prediction. And the next part that we are trying to understand is about style transfer. So here we can see that roughly there's one image on the left, one image on the right, and with some mixing and some very complicated looking stuff, the image turns out to be very different. So this is sort of like a place where there's one image taken and another image is taken, and sort of a mixture of both is created to give an entirely new sort of an image. So you might have seen that there is digital art which is created by AI or using machine learning algorithm. So it's sort of like it takes in all the data that has been created till now, and it tries to mix and match, and it tries to do something new. So if someone has heard about the generative adversarial networks or the GANs, they are also used for generating fake face images. I mean, if you just Google fake face images or human face images using GAN, then you will see a lot of data there on Google, and you can see that these humans images that they have shown, they are so realistic. I mean, they have that proper distance between the eyes, the shape of the nose, the shape of the lips, the distance between the nose and the ears. Everything is correct, but these humans don't exist. They have been created with the help of generative adversarial networks. So this is something based on this. So style transfer or generation involves training a model on, say, like one set of data, and then applying that model to something completely different. So it could be seen in this example, remaking of photographs to look like another piece of art, or translating a voice from from male to female. So we have always used these apps to change our voice or just to prank our friends, etc. So that sort of is done by style transfer. Or it can also be translated to other languages, and it can also sound different than what you always do. Now that you've seen a few examples of machine learning, I hope that you're ready to go through some other examples, and I want you guys to tell me which type of machine learning algorithm or type is best describes it. So I say best because some problems can be solved by multiple approaches to machine learning, and keep that in mind. Keep your mind open as I start with these questions, and please type it in the chat box, and we'll discuss about them. Okay, so recommending what someone will download based on previous purchases. What do you think it can be among the 5 options given on the screen? Come on, guys. Oh, okay. Sequence prediction, okay. Anyone thinking about something else? So the ones who are saying sequence prediction, why specifically sequence prediction? It's a simple, just you can reiterate what I said. If it's any simpler questions, you can say that based on past data. Right, very right, Aparajita. That's right. Yes, it's based on our previous searches. Therefore, sequence prediction is the right answer. So all examples of machine learning involve previous examples. So this is an example of predicting what the person will next do. Yes, it's predicting something based on what they have purchased before. So that is the keyword that highlights, it should highlight in your mind that, yeah, this particular set of words is what makes it sequence prediction. Yes, it recommends us on our purchase history. Correct. Okay, so moving to the next question. Labeling email as spam or not spam. We have discussed this. Come on. Come on. What type is this? Is it classification, clustering, regression, sequence prediction, style transfer? Okay, we already have people saying classification. Okay, why is it classification even though we discussed it earlier? Can anyone tell why is it classification and why not regression, since we were having a discussion on it? Right, so it's either spam or not spam. So like yes or no, right? 1 or 0 prediction. Very right, Gargi. Yeah, 2 labels, right? So when the goal is to output a discrete prediction label like yes, no, spam, not, 1, 0, then this is a good fit for classification type of systems. Right. Okay, so the next question is identifying trends among a group of people who have bought a new music release. So try to think this is something new. A classification and regression we have always heard about. Try something different, right? Yeah, cluster. Okay. So why do you think it is cluster? Okay, I also saw style transferring. So whoever are saying clustering, can you explain why clustering? And whoever are saying style transfer, can you say why style transfer? There is no right or wrong. You can just go ahead and explain what you feel, and then we can discuss and sort it. Right, we are grouping based on some characteristic. Characteristics here is the type of music that people are listening. Yeah, trends can be grouped. Usual pattern being followed. Right. Yeah, so this will not be the style transfer, because in style transfer don't go by the fancy word of style. So your music taste and style might seem like this might be a style transfer problem, but no, here the main important thing is like we're identifying particular trend among a group of people. So that sort of is the identifier here why this should be clustering. So it's less about making a specific prediction, but more of looking similarities and finding clusters, or let's say trends or groupings based on something that is common. So here the common thing is the particular new music release. Okay, captioning a video. This is interesting. What do you think it is? Anybody? It's okay if it is wrong. This is just the first time you have heard about all these terms. Okay. At least try to answer something that comes to your mind. We'll discuss this. Sequence prediction. Okay. Arushi says style transfer. Okay. Okay. So explain why style transfer or classification or sequence prediction. Sequence prediction, as it is based on people's choice. Um, Okay, so sequence prediction is not the answer here, because sequence prediction would involve what you have previously done. But while you're captioning a video, it's more of style transfer. Why? Because we have a video that is playing in front of us, and we have sort of like the text script for it. And then we have to overlay both of them at the right time to get a proper captioning for the video. So sometimes we can see the transcript. If you're watching some videos online, you can see the entire transcript of the video. And then, yeah, that's why it is style transfer. So you have a transcript of the sentences that the video is playing, and the video without the captions. So trying to overlay them together is sort of like a style transfer. So this was a tricky question, and I understand that it can seem a little bit like sequence prediction, but the fact that gives away this as style transfer is because there has been no sequence part till now. So for captioning a video, whatever, so if I'm saying a dialogue, hi, my name is Yashashri, and today I am doing XYZ. So in this, there's actually no part of sequence, because if my video is saying hi, my name is Yashashri, then there is no sequence between my first sentence and the second sentence. That doesn't make sense. So that is why this is more of style transferring, because we don't have sequence of say a particular type or type of searches, your search history, your YouTube watch history. So we don't have that kind of sequencing here. That is why this majorly comes as style transfer. And this is not classification, because while captioning a video, you're not saying that this video belongs to say horror movie type, or this doesn't belong to this belongs to comedy, horror. So you're not doing that sort of thing. You're just trying to caption, that is the subtitles that you see. So that is why this is not classification either. Okay, I hope. Oh, it meant title. It's okay. Okay. This was a little bit confusing. Yeah. So caption meant subtitles. Yeah, this phrase framed a little in a tricky way, or it was not easy to understand what captioning meant. Okay, so when the type of data generated by the system is different than the input data, then this is an example of style transfer. And in this example, the video or image frame, that is a video can be seen as a sequence of frames. It's translated into text describing what is depicted in that image. Okay, so determining workout activity based on phone movement. What do you think this can be? So if there is a person, so maybe I can elaborate this a little bit more. So if there is a person who is standing in front of a camera and doing some workout activity, then what sort of activity is that person doing? Maybe now you can get a little better idea. Okay, regression, classification, sequence prediction. Okay.
Can I just interrupt here? Sorry, Ashish. People who are saying regression, can you just give me an idea as to why you're still thinking it's regression? I would like to, clarify their doubts, I think, still.
No, just go ahead. Why do you think it was a regression? I mean, it can be, we might have missed a point, or we would really like to understand what is your take on this. So I'll try to explain this in a better way now. See, I'm standing in front of the camera and I'm trying to do those mountain climbers, or I'm trying to jump up and down. So mountain climbers, jumping, skipping, dancing. So these are the types, and the phone, based on these movements, it's classification. That is why we classify it as classification. Okay, style transfer maybe because we are suggesting based on movements. Okay.
Pranjal, we are not suggesting anything here. We're not predicting also. We are determining what is the workout activity. That would mean running, swimming, or jumping, or dancing. That is what we're trying to determine. And the people who said regression, I think I understand what your confusion is. See, like I said before, regression outputs a continuous quantity value. Okay, here we're trying to classify what activity that person is doing based on the movement. So regression will not be an answer here. Classification, because we're classifying, right? Whether the person is running
or he's jumping. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So the goal was to output discrete labels like walking, running, jumping, etc. So this is a good fit for classification. If it's only based on running, then the regression. Okay, so then what? So just help me clarify this, Anushka. So what is it supposed to then predict? So the running speed, or if that person is like slow walking, or like I didn't understand your question. Then if it's
I
only
think
based on running.
Anushka's question, Anushka might be saying if it was only based on running, then regression, right? See, if it was determining workout activity, okay, let's say if running is the question, is in question here, then you might have seen that when you're running, it tries to predict based on your 5 or 10-minute run where you will be within the next 1 hour, based on your speed. So that is the output of regression. Are you understanding that it will give you a quantified value as to where you will be in 1 hour, how much you've already run, what will be your heartbeat and speed, and how many kilometers potentially you might have covered based on your speed. That will be regression. Here we're trying to determine an activity. Our predicted data will not have any sequence order, hence classification.
True.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, this is right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I have one more question for you. So is it possible that this could be determined without machine learning, but there would be so many situations where a person could be working out, but instead is suppose driving a car. So how would you implement machine learning system to better understand the difference? So what I meant to say is, if a person is like actually driving a car, but it might seem like he's working out. So what can you do better or what can the developer do better so that the machine learning system can classify it better? So any idea? I mean, this is you have to push your boundaries a little bit if you have understood things till now. So just trying to say that can we make the system better? Because add a heartbeat detector, but okay, that is a good thing. So by that you mean to say that if a person is working out, his heartbeat will be higher than if he were, say, driving a car. So that is, yeah, okay, that can also be done. But don't you think that would be a very costly sort of costly in the sense it's very cumbersome to actually add a heartbeat detector everywhere? Okay, location detector, okay, that can also be done. But can you think more about in terms of the machine learning model that you have? Can you think of doing something to it so that maybe it can
Yeah, yeah.
differentiate better?
Aditi, if I use location detector, but what if I am bicycling or running at a really high speed? Don't you
Yeah,
think that would still be confusing?
and think about more in the machine learning perspective. Okay, so the answer to this is that we need to ensure that the model is trained with lots of examples of driving. The technical term in this situation is called the false positive. So what happens is that that particular thing might seem as driving, but it is false positive because in the end it's not actually driving. So we need to have lots of data of driving and say cycling in this situation, which is also, so the one which is really so that situation really depicts is called a true positive, and one that it classifies wrongly is called as a false positive. So we need abundant amount of data of both so that in the future it doesn't get confused between both of them. Okay, so this is sort of like an extra add-on to what we have discussed till now. Okay, so the next is predicting the strength of a password. Okay, this is a little tricky one. Try to think in both the ways, or try to think in numerous ways how this can be implemented. So as I said that the problem at hand needs to be defined based on all the parameters of the problem. So you need to understand everything from A to Z in your problem to finally identify it. So try to think of scenarios where this can be your output. Okay, okay. Okay, so we have a lot of mixed answers. The answer here is classification and regression. Okay, so let's just pause here for a second. I'll explain my view on classification and regression, and then maybe we can see why it is not style transfer and sequence prediction. So it can be when the output of machine learning system is continuous numbers, such as your password is 50% stronger than others, then it is a regression problem. I can say that my password is only 10% stronger, or 20% stronger, or 15% stronger than others. But this can also be used by users to type in if that password was weak or strong. Just simple classification between weak and strong. Okay, so since the problem is not well defined, it's open ended, so we can see that it can be classification and regression both. And there might be some cases where we can add in a few more parameters to this problem, and probably we can have a style transfer or sequence prediction. But if you guys have anything specific, or if a situation is in your mind, maybe Anushka or Samiksha, why have you thought it could be style transfer or sequence prediction? Because this particular one requires a lot of imagination. So it can be them also. We can discuss and find it out.
See, Rutika, and whoever have answered sequence prediction, here we're just trying to predict the strength of the password. And the strength of the password that we usually have is either weak or
Yeah.
strong, right? So it's a
So
simple
those green color
classification
bars that
problem.
come when you're trying to
Yes,
set your password, think
exactly.
of that. Yeah.
So sequence prediction would mean that you're trying to predict the password. We're not trying to do that here. We're just
We
trying
have,
to predict
yeah,
the
talking
strength
the
of the
strength.
password.
Yeah.
That is
And with
only either
sequence
weak or strong. Yeah, yes, Sushi, go ahead.
yeah, so with sequence prediction, it would mean that if your password is A, B, C, D, then it's like you're trying to predict what will be the fifth letter B. So that sort of thing is not what you're trying to do here. Okay. And style transfer will not be the case because you don't have a mixture of two things or more than two things over here. We are just trying to determine the strength of the password. But since it can be expressed as it's 50% or 80% stronger, it can also be regression. Okay.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was thinking more to the lines of the process of identifying whether it's weak or strong and not the actual output.
Okay.
So that would be regression, right? Because it would check like how
Yeah.
many of the characters are special characters or letters or numbers, and in that way it would be regression.
No, no.
Because
Can
like
you please repeat the
different
last
parameters.
part again? I mean, I didn't get what you were trying to say.
I was thinking of the process. So the process would be to count how many special characters are there in the password, how many are letters, and how
Okay.
many are numbers.
Okay.
And
No,
that
no,
would
no,
be
no,
kind
no.
of like parameters
But
on like when you're making a like when you're predicting the price of a house. So you would check like the amenities. So that way it would be regression, is what I was thinking.
no, because the answer is no here because you're just trying to say if it's weak or strong. So that see in regression and classification both are machine learning techniques. So they are going to have something in common. So the thing that you're saying that it tries to analyze the entire thing and give the output. So that part is what both of them can do. But the output is given in a different form. So in regression, the output would be more like a numerical thing or something which lies between a particular interval, we can say. So in classification it can be weak or strong. So whenever there's a case that we have the answer is like if it's strong or if it's weak, then that case it's classification. But if it's like trying to predict something, then that case it would be regression. I mean like a number value. Okay, is
Yeah,
that
got it.
clear?
Thank you. Yeah.
I had a question too.
Yeah,
Uh,
go ahead.
yeah, so in the last question, you said that if there's a percentage given, for example, 50% stronger password than before,
Yeah.
shouldn't it be more of clustering than regression? Because in the sense, you're comparing more than one passwords to say that this person stronger than the others.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a good question, and actually, it's like you need to define what a strong password is. You just can't. So you have say clusters. Okay, you have clusters of all passwords which are just A B C Ds, A's and B's which are together. But that's not really a strong password, right? You're finding similarities. You're grouping them, but still that doesn't help in classifying if it's strong or weak, right? So in that way, it cannot be clustering. Okay. So it's just finding similarities, but it doesn't know if it's going to be strong or weak. So you need to explicitly tell it if it's strong or weak. And I mentioned that clustering is unsupervised. So you don't tell it explicitly that this is strong or this is weak. That is why it won't be the case. Okay. I hope it was clear.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So identifying famous landmarks in a photo. What can it be? Okay, Asta, this style transfer is answer for the previous one or this one?
And let that one
Okay.
go.
Okay, so the answer this case is classification because when the output is like a discrete label such as the Eiffel Tower or Taj Mahal or Wall of China or Statue of Liberty. So this is like a classification problem. So we are just trying to identify the famous landmark in the photo. We are not actually trying to recreate a newer photo or not trying to mix two different landmarks to create something entirely new. So that is why this won't be a style transfer. I hope I am clear. And Anushka, it won't classification is right and clustering is not because in this case we are trying to identify. With clustering, we can find more of similarities, but not identification. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So suggesting spelling corrections. What can it be? So this is again a tricky one, and there's no right or wrong exactly, but there can be multiple answers if you think of something pretty different. So, okay. Okay, so this is a tricky one. It seems like it's sequence prediction. It can be if we define the problem that way. Yeah, clustering, Aishwarya is right. Sequence prediction can also be right to some cases if we have the problem very well defined. So what we have done here is that the questions are pretty open ended. So you have to imagine uske aage ka and piche ka what all can be the entire scenario in that. So I'll try to tell you about clustering and why we thought that this answer should be clustering. It's because that you are trying to combine or make clusters of misspelled words, so they may end up closer to the correct spelling than a completely different word. So if we are saying like nice and you wrote NOCE, then that is clustered together with a group of nice, and then in the end that label is given as the correct prediction. Okay, so that's why we thought this would be clustering, because you have a pool of words which has NOCE, NACE, and the main label or the cluster name is actually nice, NICE. So anything in that one, in that particular group, it might be a variation of nice. So that is what we thought, but it can also be sequence prediction in case that you are typing it in real time. You are typing it out in real time and it is showing you the correction. It can also be sequence prediction as well in that case. So I would say that both are right. Since we didn't specify one particular condition over here, so this was a little bit tricky as well. Okay. So keep in mind here, we are trying to cluster misspelled words that will tend to cluster closer to the intended word. Okay. Predicting the quality score for an advertisement. What could it be? Okay, so everyone is on the same page here with regression. Yes, the output of the machine learning system is continuous numerical score. So it can be like 3 on 10 or 98% or 97%. So since this score is numeric and it is based on n number of features, so it's regression. Great one. Okay, so estimating arrival time based on time of any time based estimating arrival time based on time of day and traffic. What can it be? Okay, it's already clicked over here for some reason. Okay, it's regression. Yes. This is regression again because, yeah, continuous values. So try to think in that avenue. It can be numeric values such as 1 hour and 5 minutes, etc. Estimated time. We discussed this problem when we were looking at regression. And we had the Google map, if everyone remembers, right? So we had sort of discussed this. Okay, and okay, so Samiksha, it's not sequence prediction because you're not trying to predict where you are going to go next or what is going to be your next destination or things like that. You're just trying to predict the time taken over there. It can depend on a number of factors, the traffic, the time, and etc. And n number of factors, what type of vehicle you are using, etc. So that is why this is classified as regression. Okay. Yeah, right, Asta. Okay. Okay, for some reason this is also clicked. Some glitch over here, but try to guess it. Translation between two languages. Okay, it's actually clicked over here. The answer is shown because of some stupid glitch over here. But it's okay. If you feel that the answer can be something different, please type it in.
Guys, why do you think the answer is style transfer?
Yeah.
Come on, you guys have been answering style transfer for so
Okay,
long. I
can be
think you can
sequence
relate.
prediction. Yeah, I will explain. Yeah. Okay, style transfer because you convert one language to other. Yes. Okay, Arushi, it's right. I'll explain. Okay, Aishwarya, it cannot be sequence prediction because we are trying to translate one language to another and not trying to predict the next word in that language. So we are translating from Hindi to English, and then we are not actually trying. So my name is Ashishri. So you are not trying to predict the next word. So sequence prediction would require you to predict something new or predict some word, but in this translation purpose we are sort of converting one language to another. So it's like we are taking English data. We know what is English, we know what is written in English, we know what is Hindi, we know all the words in Hindi, and then we are sort of trying to superimpose both of them and to get a final answer, and then it can be style transfer. Okay, was that clear or should I explain it again? So both of the input types may be the same, like text, audio, but the languages are different. So a translation model trained for one language could be retrained to translate between the other languages as well. That is why primarily this is style transfer. So some translation tools, they use programmed rules to translate from one language to another. But increasing in quality requires they grow more complex. So these models tend to be more complex. And languages may not have clear rules for translation between languages like French and Mandarin, etc. Yeah, okay, Ashura, there are multiple words which can be used, but we are trying to translate I am to मैं हूँ. So we are not trying to predict I am and the next name that is going to be. So that is not what we are trying to do here. We are trying to make I am to मैं हूँ. Sort of is what we are trying to do. So what we have is we have a database of all English words and English grammar, and we have a database of all Hindi words and Hindi grammar. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to convert one to another by superimposing both. So we are adding both of them to create something new that is in Hindi. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
so
see
finally
guys.
we are towards the end of the session.
Yeah.
And there are few questions for you, and since we have almost been going on for 2 hours, I would suggest that you write these questions down somewhere and try to go over them later on, Google it or search it somewhere in a book that you have or in any other resource
Guys,
that you can find. And yeah, try to find out the answers to this so that whatever you have learned today, make this as a stepping stone, take this as a stepping stone and try to learn more about it ahead in the future. So that is why after you find answers to this, probably the concepts which we saw today will be much clearer than what you have right now.
go ahead, Google the keywords, watch some YouTube videos, write these questions down, try to answer them on your own. And if you have any more questions, obviously you can reach out to us anytime. We'll be happy to answer.
Yeah.
So we don't want to bore you
Yeah, very happy
beyond
to
this
answer.
point. It's
Yes.
already been 2 hours. We planned it for 90 minutes. We want you to come back for the second lesson, which is neural networks on Friday. Bring along more friends.
Yeah.
And you guys have been amazing, interactive. Be like that on Friday also. Thank you for sticking around for so long. Really, we appreciate
Yeah.
it.
And thank you for answering all those questions and trying to be interactive, because it would be really difficult to have this one way. And we are really glad that you gave all the answers, and yeah, you tried to have fun. Yeah, we are glad.
So super grateful that we have freshers like you. Informative, interesting. Thank you. Join us. Do join
Thank you
us
so
on
much.
Friday also. We won't take much of
Get
your
your friends,
time.
and if you have any doubts or you want to connect post the session, please drop us a mail or
Yeah,
try to connect
anytime.
us
My
with
name
us
is
on LinkedIn.
Mitali.
Anything is fine.
Yeah, this is my
Yeah, my
email
name is a little
ID.
difficult to spell, so I'll just put it in the chat box.
I'll just give my email ID. Okay. DSC recruitment, I think you will get a mail about that from Aditri. She is our DSC lead. But for now, let's stick to ML. So I
Yeah,
think we'll
mostly
see
we
you
will
guys
share the
on
recording with
Friday.
you.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the mail. Yeah.
So I'll be sharing
And
3
please do
links.
solve with questionnaire. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be sharing 3 links with you all. The first is the Discord link. The second will be the attendance link, and the third is the quiz link. So I'll be sharing them one after another in the chat. So you guys can take in all 3 links. The links will be open till 8:30. The attendance and the quiz link will be open till 8:30. So do fill it. Before it closes. Just
Yeah, and try to fill out the questionnaire, please. It will be helpful for you guys. And if you
And
want to
do
connect
give
with
us
us,
feedback
drop us a mail if you have some
personally.
interesting discussion.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
always
that
up
is
for
also
some interesting
welcome.
discussion. Give us some
Constructive
feedback.
criticism as well.
Yes,
Anything,
guys.
anyhow we can improve, please let us know. And we are telling you, not experts in this domain. It's just trying to learn. We have been doing it for the past 2 years only. We're not experts in this. So there might be some plus or minus from our side as well. So thank you for bearing with us.
We're here to learn with you all, understand
Yeah.
your ideas. So these are the 3 links that Aditri has shared. I think I'm going to drop out. So bye-bye. Thank you guys. Join us on
Bye bye, guys.
Friday.
Thank you so much. You were
Bye-bye.
great. You were so great. Thank you. Bye bye.